You got your Scott, you seem so far away.
Ask me a
I know.
question.
Our friend's not here today.
I know, right?
M&M's.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission for Monday, April 3rd. We have established a quorum, and I would entertain, what am I going to entertain? Motion to approve minutes from last 2 weeks meeting, excuse me.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the last 2 weeks' meetings.
Okay, have a first, have a second.
Second.
Second by Scott, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Moving on. Any person not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. Anybody have a conflict of interest or an ex parte contact declarations?
None.
Seeing none. And that moves us straight to number 5, which is our public hearing and action, which you have for a conditional use permit from Hunter Christensen and Blue Terra Development, a conditional use permit to allow for an RV park in a C3 zone. Mr. Cherry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you mentioned, this is a request for a conditional use permit for a RV park in the C3 zone. The subject property that we're looking at today is property directly east of the auto ranch, this triangle piece right here. Items that we looked at in doing our analysis for the request was the zoning ordinance, and also the zoning of ordinance which pertains to specific and unique land uses, which this one does. However, it's fairly broad. It says that RV parks shall be compatible to the surrounding areas where they are at, staff, and that they should be on either a highway, collector, or arterial street. I believe that the reasoning for having these other components is for the ease of operations for the RV park, and coincidentally, this is located right by an arterial roadway, right by the interstate, easily visible and easily accessible to potential patrons of the RV park. Staff has reviewed the proposed site plan with our building official, Public Works, the fire marshal. Everything is compliant as far as we have reviewed it. The comprehensive plan has designated this area as commercial, which this land use is harmonious with the commercial designation. Our comprehensive plan also speaks to the importance of housing. Though I don't think that an RV park should be our primary mode of providing housing, it does provide some alternative housing. Maybe not long-term. I believe this is more of a short-term park, but it does provide both commercial and potential housing value as well. With that is all staff has to present at this time, and if you do not have any questions for staff at this moment, I would like to redirect my time to the applicant for their presentation.
I only have one question, that is, what do we label this under the land use chart?
This is labeled in the land use chart as RV park.
Under commercial?
It should be there. Or recreational vehicle.
Ah, gotcha.
You find it?
Yep, I did.
Awesome.
I have no other questions.
Thank you. So, Hunter, you want to come up and
It's right here.
right here. And here's the computer. You can walk them through. Introduce yourself.
My name is Hunter Christensen, as Brock said. I'm the representative. I'm a developer with Blue Terra Development. We're a group located out of Boise. All of us have been there. I've been there my whole life, and all the other members of the group have been there 15 plus years. Love the area, love Mountain Home. Come up here to golf a few times when I was in high school. It's just kind of a nice place. So this is kind of the site plan that we have drawn up for this thing. It's approximately 175 stalls based on the site plan as is. I just wanted to draw your attention to a few things. So this is kind of our clubhouse right here. We'll show you floor plans and elevations for that as we kind of go through the presentation. Here we've got kind of some open space for our amenities. We haven't finalized what those amenities will be. Pickleball has been the one thing that's been in every single one of our parks, and we're going to kind of analyze what would best serve this area as we get closer along. But we have some dog parks here in the corners, and then here based off of our pre-application meeting with the city, it was mentioned that there's kind of a brown belt for the city mountain home that's connecting here, and it was mentioned that we could provide an easement, so we're planning to provide a 14-foot easement right along the northeast side of our park that will be designated for that brown belt to kind of connect those two parts of our parcel. So Blue Terra, we have 2 completed parks right now. One is in Nampa and one is in Ontario. These are kind of the aerial views of those parks. I'll kind of show some more pictures of the areas so you guys kind of have a feel for what this park would look like, not just the clubhouse, but the overall feel of the parks. So this is the one in Nampa, Centerpoint RV. It was the first project that Blue Terra Development did. It's about a 2,500 square foot clubhouse approximately. I think it might be a little bit smaller. And you can kind of see you've got very nice living space. It kind of feels a little bit more of like a kind of like a clubhouse you'd see in like an apartment building or a hotel. We want it to be very, for people that have RVs, have a place where they can go have access to kind of more space than they would have in RVs. We also have laundry and bathrooms in this one. This is River Point. This one is a little bit of a larger clubhouse. It's in Ontario. It's about 165 stalls as well, similar to the size that we'll be doing in Mountain Home. Here's some pictures like the laundry facility, what kind of the drive aisles look like in the clubhouse. Inside of this one, a similar look, just a little larger than Centerpoint. This is what we have right now for our renderings for the Mountain Home clubhouse. So you can kind of see this is going to be the back entry, the back right here. You'll have a main entrance into the clubhouse right here. We'll have some sort of signage or lettering on these walls when we get there, but this is going to be kind of a back patio area as well, and an entrance to the bathrooms and laundry over here. Floor plan. And if you guys have any questions or whatever, feel free to jump in. And then this is just ITD response letter in case you guys needed it. But that's all I've got.
Commissioner, any questions right now? No? No. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to kick you back and then we'll allow it to open up the public hearing. And with that, if you have anything you would like to state, please come on forward. Please make sure you state your full name and address for the record.
Brendan McCarthy, 890 East 14th North, Mountain Home. Really, I'm not coming here to this body to against or for this project. I just have 2 main concerns that I really hope that would be in the conversation with this proposal. 2 of those, the 2 being, one is infrastructure. Looking at, everything that's being developed in that area. We had Dutch Bros, we had grocery outlet, we have the Taco Bell, car wash is now breaking ground in that. Really, I think we should start having the conversation of, the infrastructure of street light for these traffic issues. I've driven by many times and can see people making U-turns and everything out of Cedarview Drive because we have the center lanes. My concern is that if we keep approving all these businesses and everything coming through without the consider of this infrastructure, that eventually we're looking at, okay, who's going to pay for the infrastructure? Is it going to be a private business, or is the city going to have to pay with this? If we're using tax dollars for the infrastructure, for a street light and everything. I'm not for that. I don't think that's something that should be on the citizens using those tax dollars for that. And that's just kind of something that I'm concerned that I would really hope we have that discussion, because again, if we keep approving these 5-10 years and everything goes by, who's paying for it? The second thing I had was a concern for, let's see here in my notes, sorry. So it's being classified as an RV park. I'm just curious if the applicant has any consideration, or if they're doing any agreements to limit on the time that the RV, at the RV park? Is it more than 30 days, or is it a limit to individuals staying for 30 days? Because if we're going over that 30 days, should we really be classifying it as an RV park? Should it maybe actually be a mobile home kind of park? And, you know, with those differences there, of course, that would bring different city ordinances that would apply and everything like that. So I really think those are big concerns that I have. Then I'm hoping that this body has that discussion, just so that, again, we're having that issue addressed, but we're also keeping my smart growth, because, again, we don't want to be reactive. We want to be proactive and keeping ahead of this. So anyway, that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brent. Misty?
Misty Pierce. I live in the Donna subdivision. I'm going to kind of touch bases on what Brendan said on the traffic. I know that there's talks of a roundabout in that area on 8th Street and American Legion. I just think that if we do go forward with the roundabout, it's going to cause a lot of problems. I know you discussed with the, Travis, with the car wash, you know, the size of the drive-through itself. If you take an RV through a roundabout, it could mess it up, and that infrastructure could be ruined, and we wasted money on that. I just don't want to see the city start spending money on things that are going to be torn out. I know that other cities are tearing roundabouts out because trucks can't get through, and that's a big concern. Also, with the RV park that's over on the other side, how much more traffic are we going to add and congest that freeway entrances and exits? And that's my biggest concern, is the traffic in that area. Thank you.
Thanks, Misty.
Thank you.
Seeing as how you're the only two in the audience tonight, does anybody else want to say anything? Okay, public hearing is now closed. I'll again bring you right back up. Brock, can we just touch base real quick about the roundabout? Because I know that that was a conversation we had a few millennia ago, it feels like.
And it's been brought up since.
It was.
So let's have a quick convo about that.
So I'll lay on it, and then if I fumble it too much, Richard Akidi's here to set me on the right path. So the roundabout is actually discussed for up here at 8th Street. And the reasoning because of that is because of the number of accesses. In order to be compliant with IDAPA, you can't have a light right there. I believe we have that in our CIP.
You can't have a light there because it's too close to the freeway exit or entrance. So it's federal highway reasons.
So it's a congestion issue?
It is. It's because if we have a stoplight, it'll back up past the access.
So, again,
the light is at City View.
Yeah.
So as far as, again, the roundabout timeline for future construction, do we have that in our CIP right now?
It is not, because we're really working with ITD to fix that. The access study says to put a spooey there.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is like what's at Broadway or Vista or something like that. So that's the plan. It's been moving up in ITD's years. I mean, we're at least 5 years out because they have to get stuff planned, but they are well aware of what's going on here with that access. So that's part of, waiting to kind of see what happens with that. Depends on what happens with a lot of different things going on. But
How about the signal at City View? Is that in this?
signal is at City View is in our CIP, yes.
So,
That's your question. I mean, so we can use impact fee money for that.
Okay.
so to touch on the remark made by the public, which is an excellent comment, is are property tax dollars going to be used to pay for the light? Are we going to have growth pay for growth? I think a good, better, best, but a pretty good answer is that we do have access, being that it is in our CIP, with impact fees that we will receive from this development and other developments in that area, that we can put that towards that infrastructure. Can I make a promise to this group right now? Are we going to use any other property tax funds for that project, I don't know.
Mr. Cherry,
Yes.
if I might speak to that from a legal standpoint. So, and I haven't reviewed the CIP document or the impact fee analysis for the light itself. But it is in that same book we had out a minute ago, 67, chapter 82 on development impact fees. The development impact fees are for the proportionate share to provide the same level of service. So to the extent there was a level of service deficiency at that intersection before City View Drive was developed, some property tax revenue must be used to contribute toward that. Perfect. So there's a proportion, so if there's a deficiency already, then the city owes that much from its existing residents. And then if the new growth creates a worse situation, then the new growth, development impact fees go to that. So the two could go together. I don't know what the answer is there. It could be the case that everything's groovy and the city won't have to use any property tax revenue, but the proportionate share, there should be a calculation that shows that.
No.
And so development impact fees for the new demand for traffic at that intersection will be contributing toward that light.
Just off of that a little bit,
Yeah.
ITD and the city and other businesses in that area have been in discussions, and because it's a right in, right out, both ways, that the only way that can be alleviated is a light. So all the businesses around that know that they would have to probably, step up a little bit.
Throw some skin in the game.
So let's go back to the roundabout real quick. You said they were going to put in a what? There was a talk about what?
It's called a spooey. I mean, that's how the exits and all the accesses come in and off the freeway. So it's something like if you've driven to Broadway or Vista, that's how that works. That's what it's called.
And that's not gonna-
Alleviating something else, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
And that's not going to cause any issues with trucks or RVs or anything like that. That's like made for those movements, right? Those vehicles.
Everything's going to be made for the movements.
Okay. All right, just make sure.
That's not going to be, that will not be a roundabout. That would be a traffic circle, which is 2 lanes, and it's much bigger.
Okay. Okay. Good.
It's actually designed by ITE to help us to figure out what's going to fit there.
Oh, okay.
But it's important to note that yes, obviously this development will create traffic. That future traffic circle does play a role, but I just want to make sure that this body understands that the proposed traffic circle is not proposed for the City View intersection off of 8th. Okay, that's all. I just want to make sure that that's the understanding.
Could you point out where that proposed traffic light would be? City View and American Legion.
So it would be right here, and as Mr. Irikiti stated, there has been discussions of how that is going to be implemented. Right now, we have a piece of correspondence from ITD, who's very aware of all the other developments that have happened because they get the correspondence. They believe that the traffic volume that is going to be produced by this development, not only incrementally, but at full build-out, is not appropriate for a TIS. And that is their road. American Legion it is in their best interest that American Legion flows well. Now, for the most part, I believe as development that we're going to see in the near future at City View, this is kind of the last piece. The other piece that would potentially come off of this is a piece owned by the Shoshone-Bannock Tribe, and we're not going to speculate there. But as far as immediately being able to develop, this is kind of it. I would assume that any other additional users that light, we're probably not going to get a friendly piece of correspondence from ITD saying everything's okay. That we're going to have to implement it's probably going to be a combination of different funding sources for the light, where we're probably going to use impact fees. The city's probably going to be in negotiations with businesses and other entities that are highly effective. that are highly affected in that area for potential cost sharing. We do know that there needs to be a plan. We're engaged with other entities about we need to make a plan, but none has been finalized as of yet, as of precisely. This is how it's going to be funded. This is where it's going to go in.
Perfect.
I got another question. I don't know if we have a good picture. When you turn off American Legion, with RVs, you're gonna need a wide turn radius going both ways. Is that mouth or the, I don't know the right technical term for a street, the entrance?
The entrance into City View.
Yeah, is that wide enough to accommodate that type of traffic? Because initially,
Is City View 50 feet wide, Rich?
because you can put a light there, but then if someone's trying to turn in, they're gonna need that extra berth to
Yeah, egress.
get in and out. If I may ask the applicant a question.
Sure.
What's the longest RV length that you would allow there?
I mean, I don't think we have a limitation on the length of them. So the standard 50 footers.
Okay, so, yeah, that would need quite a bit.
50 foot including the pickup,
I guess no, in addition to the pickup.
so there'd be 2 parking spaces per them in order
So-
to park a pickup next to it, or?
Yeah, so the stalls are very large. They're usually about 20 by anywhere up to 65.
Okay.
And they're on the plan, so there's enough length for both and width as well.
While he's looking this up, if I can
Yeah.
ask a question, Chairman, the long-term, short-term, can you explain that to me real quick?
Sure, like the difference between
Sure.
the two. Yeah, for the most part, what we do is we do kind of what the market allows for. We don't necessarily have short-term or long-term parks, or we sometimes will designate certain stalls as short-term. As a owner, you prefer short-term because the nightly rate's much better than a monthly. But the longest agreement we'll come to with the customers a month to month. We find they usually kind of come in and out quite frequently. Very few stay longer than a year in these parks. But we do a mixture based on what the market kind of demands. If that answers your question.
It does, thank
Okay.
you. I can say that, if I could say something more of a comment, I don't think, if you've ever seen the one that's directly kitty corner or adjacent from the hospital or the, yeah, the KOA, and there's also the one heading up towards Walmart that you'll be closer to. I've never waited behind a camper there. If you've ever been on that land, it's very, very nice, and I'm hoping that this will be something of the same fashion. I would like to ask one more, if that's okay. One more question. EDUs. How many EDUs does this eat up?
Yeah, so, I don't know if either of you want to speak to the EDUs. We talked about it a little bit in the pre-application meeting. What we have found is that one RV is usually about the equivalent of a quarter of a traditional EDU. Each city has kind of different designations in that area, so that we'll work with Public Works Department to kind of determine what that means for this city. But in terms of water usage,
Clubhouse has a laundry, so they'll have you use.
Yeah.
So we're talking approximately 45 EDUs for the entire space.
plus a clubhouse.
Plus, yeah.
That's 2 for the clubhouse. I just added
Oh, yeah.
another extra just to be good measure. Okay.
Mr. Cherry, would you explain for the record here what we're doing a virtual site visit for the turn-in.
Welcome.
Would you describe what's being shown here?
Yeah, so what is being shown is where City View Drive meets American Legion Boulevard. For the purposes of illustrating to the commission and anyone who is happily viewing this content, the width of the roadway as it may pertain to trucks and trailers accessing, entering, exiting.
This is a Google Earth Street View.
This is a Google Earth Street View
Thank you.
from October 2022
Thank you.
is the most recent.
Another virtual site visit.
Did you need to know which way's north?
No, I don't.
Okay, just checking.
I believe it's depicted there. It's right there with the little red arrow.
Okay,
So-
just want to make sure. Just want to make sure.
So, unfortunately, as far as giving you the precise measurements, the overhead that was available was older, so it doesn't show the full build out of the road. I want to guesstimate with the 3 lanes, which are there, that we're looking between 50 and 60 feet.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes.
City View right now already has semi-truck traffic coming and going from Dutch Bros,
Grocery outlet and stuff like that.
grocery outlet. I would imagine that the ingress-egress radius is large enough to accommodate pretty long RVs
Yeah.
and combo
I would agree with that.
towing.
If I can, actually, I spent quite a bit of time up that way, and there's it's mostly a turnaround. Typically, it's where you see a 48-foot trailer turnaround. So, Mr. Harjo's completely correct. It would definitely accommodate a camper without an issue.
Okay. I need you to do me one big favor. Explain to me again why this is considered a conditional use permit.
This is considered a conditional use permit because the code for the C3 zoning district, per the land use chart, has determined that this is not outright permitted, that it's a conditional use. The reasoning potentially behind that is because there could be impacts that are not normally associated with outright permitted uses, which could affect the built environment around it. For precisely the reason we're having the conversation that we're having now. An RV park has big trucks, they go in, they go out. We want to make sure that entrances are paved.
You read something in the beginning before we had
Yes.
public hearing. That whole
So that's
thing.
different.
Okay.
So there are conditional uses, but also our code speaks to specific and unique uses, which are additional design standards that need to be followed for certain land uses, where an RV park is listed within those standards. So sometimes it will have a little segment of, all right, for this, you're going to generally need X, Y, and Z. For instance, I believe it says for drive-throughs, like that's a unique standard, and I think it just says sufficient stacking.
Okay.
Which is okay. Normally, I've seen other specific design standards to be more specific with their property development standards. For instance, for a drive-through, they'll say you need at least 6 stacking, 7 stacking. You need to have an escape lane. You must have an escape line. We need to have these widths. In this instance, pertaining to the recreational vehicle use, it's very broad. It just says that these should be in close proximity to highways, collectors. Basically, I think what it's getting at is it probably shouldn't be right next to a residential neighborhood taking direct
Yeah.
access on local roadways.
Okay. Perfect. That's what I needed to hear. Okay. Commissioner, any other questions?
I don't know how much mine can pertain, but we've been talking a lot about the traffic. What would it have taken to connect this to the freeway? For it to be a freeway stop, if you will, just entrance from one end and an exit through American Leisure City Drive here? Is that something that ITD does? This is mostly an informational question for myself.
It's probably everything's probably too close to be able to put another access.
Too close to the off-ramp and on-ramp? Okay,
It's a good question.
thank you.
Scott, you got anything?
Nothing further.
Billy? Travis? Okay, if we got nothing, I'm gonna entertain a motion.
Chairman, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve a request for a conditional use permit to allow for the construction of an RV park in C3 zone located at the end of City View Drive between Mountain Home Auto Ranch and I-84.
Okay, I have a first up second. Second by Billy. Scott, we'll start with you.
Aye.
Billy? Aye. Travis? Aye. An aye from me as well. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving down the list, we have no new business, old business. Gentlemen, we have to approve the action item that took place last meeting for the finding of facts. So I'd entertain a motion.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the finding and facts for the planning unit development, Yazinski Investments, PZ 23-7.
Yeah, first I have second.
Second.
Second by Travis. Okay, Travis, start with you.
Aye.
Billy? Aye. Scott? Aye. Aye from me as well. Motion passes on that. No department head items, no items requested by staff, unless we do.
So, if anyone from this body tuned into the last city council meeting, there was a discussion of city council potentially changing the date and time for their meetings. Right now, being discussed with them is moving to Tuesday at 5 p.m. When I was speaking to fellow staff members about our schedules and what this move kind of does, for purely quality of life reasons for us, without making sure that we're transparent, giving people the opportunity to come, we all banded together and we wanted to throw out the idea to see what this body would think if we too were to do our meetings on Tuesdays. Not change the meeting time to 5, but to do it on Tuesdays, just for our sake of not juggling, oh, we have every other Friday, and every other Monday, and every other Tuesday off. If Tuesday evenings would be something that this group would entertain.
Same time, or?
Same time. Well, I'm not asking to go to 5. I'm just asking to go on Tuesday so we can have the same consistency that we do now.
I know, Travis, you said earlier that.
I do. I would have a child care issue with that.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we just wanted to throw it out and see what was there.
Doesn't mean it's not feasible, but I think it's something that I'd have to discuss.
When are you planning on making this decision?
We're not planning on making, right now, we have no formal proposal for this body.
Okay.
This is purely information gathering on our end
Okay.
to see what sort of impact would there be. For us, it's just having that same consistency, knowing that no matter what, every Monday, every week, we're going to be gone. It's easier professionally for us just from organizational stuff that we do to have them line up. But it's not a need necessarily, but it would be a comfort.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, your attorney has 2 other jurisdictions that meet on Tuesdays. But that's our
Which one
problem.
is most
That's more-
important?
There's well, this obviously the one I'm talking to. So I just,
But that's understood.
we can juggle that. We have other staff. We can take care of it. My
Yeah.
other jurisdictions, P and Z meetings are on Wednesdays. That would
Understand.
be Glens Ferry, but their city council meetings there and in Parma are on Tuesdays. So,
I understand,
Just-
and again,
but we've always been able to make it work.
yep,
So,
and this is
whatever
not
you-
staff making a formal proposal. This is purely us getting the information, seeing where things sit. We'll see how things ultimately work out with city council. Again, we don't want to take anything away that we believe this body's tremendously effective. We have really great attendance. We don't want to change that. We also know that we want to be available for the public to meet. Where, again, it was only the day we were looking at, not necessarily changing the time.
Okay.
But if anyone else has any other feedback about this, you can email me, text me, tell me what you think. They're re-evaluating, so we just thought it wouldn't hurt to take a look and see what opportunities are there.
Okay. Commission, anything else? Okay. We're adjourned. Waiting for that.
Before you close that all up, can you pull up the triangle?
I mean, that's on.
Oh, I know the song. I can't remember.